Tim, and welcome to WatchYouWant.com. Thanks for logging on. Today, we're going a bit afield of our comfort zone. The Speedmasters and the Seamasters of the Omega line get left behind as we embrace a new reference that really represents the future of the Omega brand as an upscale manufacturer of a diverse range of luxury watch products. This is the Omega DeVille Co-Axial Chronograph. This model was new for 2012 as part of a new wave of Omega watches utilizing the revolutionary caliber 9300 chronograph movement. So let's back up a little bit and talk about what that caliber 9300 movement represents. Now, as of 2007, Omega released the first ever in-house coaxial movement to be marketed since the debut of the coaxial escapement itself in 1999. And with that caliber 8500 of 2007, everything changed. The power reserve increased, the reliability, the durability, the service interval, and yes, the warranty period all increased. Fast forward to 2011, now you're seeing new watches being built with a chronograph module version of the 8500 movement. And 1 year later, 2012, brings us to this model here, the DeVille Co-Axial Chronograph. So let's talk about this model, let's talk about its look, let's talk about where it sits in the Omega range, and what you get from that signature caliber 9300 chronograph. So the first thing I want to talk about is the dial here. As you can see, it's a classically styled watch. This is a formal reference with the combination of white metal, the black dial, and the black distressed alligator. It's a little bit sportier than a traditional dress watch, and at 42 millimeters across, it also has contemporary size, so you're not going to be hidebound to a black tie situation, but if you do want to wear this watch for a formal occasion, it's up to the job, and if you want to wear it casually, it's also good to go. But the thing you want to note here is the complexity of the dial. Now, Omega's done a good job of blending the classical and the contemporary. Applied numerals, Romans in all cases, give an upscale feel and three-dimensional look to the dial. Now, the dial is also highly segmented and layered. There's this outer rehaut, which is linear grained. It gives sort of a dished look and depth to the dial. Moving inward, you see those applied numerals, all high polish. They have a lot of texture and rise to them. They are faceted. They gleam as you move them through the light, and that kind of contrasts with the matte reflection upon the brushed rehaut. A lot of contrast, a lot of visual interest. As you move in past the hour track, there's a calibrated minutes track, and that's where the dial itself is actually stepped down, and there are separate dished and stepped subdials that sort of mimic the overall look of the dial as a whole. Again, thematically consistent, stylistically, there's a lot of parallels here, and overall it's a very elegant presentation without being stultified, without being oppressively dress-like. It's a sporty watch, but it's also a refined watch. It does a good job of walking that line. Now, as a chronograph, it's always going to have a bit of a sporting aspect to it, and that's one of the most interesting aspects of the dial. Although it features a classical, bilaterally symmetrical bicompax chronograph layout, it actually has a triple register chronograph, and you can begin to see the separation between the hour and minutes hands right here at 3 o'clock. This is a mono counter. Think Patek Philippe 5960 and you get the idea. Hours and minutes on the same subdial allows you to maintain the small seconds at 3 o'clock and the chronograph center seconds while preserving the symmetry of the dial and the large jump date window at 6 o'clock. Now, even the jump date window is characteristic of the level of detail Omega puts into this watch. The date window itself is actually stepped with two separate levels, stepping down to a monotone, color-coordinated black date wheel with a high-contrast silver Arabic numeral indicating the date. Beautifully rendered, beautifully executed, and thoughtful. I can't tell you how many nice watches have been ruined by a contrasting color date wheel. It's like a raspberry at the end of a poem. Just kind of spoils the mood, you know what I mean? So this watch is beautiful to look at, and moving back from the dial, you see that the case exhibits the same level of consideration. There is a vertically brushed flank treatment that, combined with, I'm going to show you this, there's sort of a bowl-like tumble home to the side of the watch. It has compound curves in a sort of convex shape that's quite beautiful and really tapers down to a flat, comfortable case back that sits lightly on the wrist. Some may be a little bit cynical and skeptical of a 42 millimeter dress watch, but I can tell you that the way this wears and the way it feels, it definitely fits the bill for a modern dress reference. Sits lightly on the wrist, and because of that tumble home, you can see the polished bezel, and you can see the tumble home of the sides. You can see the tight, highly curved lugs. This will fit under a dress cuff, even French cuffs, so you're good to go for formal occasions. And at 42 millimeters, you never have to worry about it being too small. Because of its profile, you never have to worry about it being too large. Now, moving to the back, you see the main event. I'm going to talk a little bit about the decoration of this movement because it's unique to the 8500 and the 9300 series. There's a gorgeous sort of radial and spiraling arabesque Côte de Genève that centers on the winding rotor and then radiates outward with a little eccentric or curvature to it. Very beautiful. It is machine rendered, but it's impeccably so. I've seen hand-finished watches that are inconsistent, that have specks of dirt inside them, eyelashes, fingerprints. One thing I will say about Omega and the separate line that assembles these exclusively for Omega at ETA is that they are surgically consistent. They are Rolex-like these days. That's the quality you're getting, but you're getting more technology than Rolex. You're getting Omega's proprietary SI14 escapement, hairspring, and balance. Now, this technology was developed in-house by Swatch Group, and it means that this watch is not just anti-magnetic like, say, a Rolex Milgauss. It is amagnetic. You're good to go. If you work at CERN, if you're around MRIs on a regular basis, whatever you've got, this watch is good for it. It will not get magnetized, highly impact resistant, shock resistant, and resistant to temperature fluctuations. This is about as hardy, and I should mention that it's free sprung with a full balance bridge, but this is about as hardy as a watch movement gets in the modern era. Partially skeletonized bridge, you can see the column wheel winding mechanism underneath. That's a nice trick, and the column wheel and the vertical clutch engagement on this watch ensure the kind of smooth actuation, rifle bolt actuation, function selection. It ensures that when you start and stop the chronograph seconds, it stops without staggering, it resets completely, and it starts without a jump. That's the refinement that you've come to expect from previous generations of coaxial chronographs built by Omega, but this actually departs from the Frédéric Piguet movements, the so-called 33XX series that preceded it. It's more durable, it's more advanced, it has a longer power reserve. Those were 52-hour chronographs, this is a 60. Those were what are called balance cock chronographs with a single anchored balance, anchored on both sides in this case, much more shock resistant, much more stable, and of course free sprung, so the index itself can't move. Chronometer certified as always. These watches are actually more accurate than a typical Swiss chronometer because Omega's in-house standards exceed those of the COSC, and these watches are not allowed to leave Omega until they're regulated to better than -1 seconds of loss, 5 seconds of gain per 24 hours. There's a lot of materials technology in here, watchmaking content, everything from that unique finishing to the oxidized black, not blue screws, to that gorgeous arabesque. Just the fact that Omega fully realized this as a movement that works, is engineered, and looks like nothing else. To me, that gives it a tremendous amount of in-house credibility, identity, and as a watch enthusiast, it's just horologically interesting. It's not generic. There's nothing about this watch that you can call cookie cutter. This is by Omega, for Omega, and exclusive to Omega. Now, I just want to call attention to the fact that because the caliber 9300 is a more durable, more advanced movement, this watch is warranted by a 4-year original Omega factory warranty, and having been purchased in May of 2013, this watch contains, or actually retains, the balance of the Omega factory warranties and protection. So you have the most advanced movement, the latest case style, a gorgeous versatility with the black and the white, and you have plenty of factory protection to back it up with a 100% complete Omega factory boxed set. All manuals, boxes, documentation, and accessories that would be included at the Omega Boutique are included here. We're offering everything, including warranty, except for the new manufacturer MSRP retail price. Check this watch out in high-resolution imagery on our website, watchyouwant.com. I'm confident if you're into Omega, if you like the latest technology and a versatile style, but you're off the beaten path of Speedmasters and Seamasters for the time being, consider this Omega DeVille Coaxial Chronograph, available from watchyouwant.com.